Welcome to the Alignment Blueprint. I'm your host, Callie. I'm a holistic life and business strategist. I also happen to be extremely passionate about holistic healing and growth. With over 13 years of experience, I've worked with clients from all walks of life. I also know living an authentically aligned life in business and in health can be a little overwhelming. I'm here to break it down for you and take you on my journey to authentic alignment. Remember, the materials and content within this podcast are intended as general information only and are not to be considered a substitute for medical advice or treatment. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. I am here today with Courtney Wallbank, which she is going to let you know where she's from, but you're going to notice her accent, which is super cool for me. I love hearing accents. It's very exciting, but how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited for this chat. It's going to be insane.
Too.
I bet all the listeners are like, whoa, she is so northern. She's so English.
Yeah, and we'll get into like your journey and stuff and where you've been because you're not currently residing where you're from, right?
I am at the moment, but
Okay.
I don't. It's like it's the last year's been a bit crazy for me in terms of like living and traveling and everything. So, but usually I don't.
But and I'm going to have you introduce yourself in a second, but I did want to say though, it's so cool that you have built a business that you can do it from anywhere.
Yeah, that honestly, that is like my probably up there with one of my number one achievements. It's so freeing, honestly.
Yeah,
It's insane.
it's amazing. So introduce yourself. I always have the guests introduce themselves because I love hearing from you guys instead of hearing from me. So tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of tell me how you got started and whatever comes up.
Of course. So I am Courtney, and like you said, I grew up in the UK. So I'm from Manchester in the UK, but in my early 20s, I moved to Australia. So I live in Sydney. However, we don't really live in Sydney anymore because we sold all of our shit and left. Like literally pretty much everything we owned apart from a backpack, we sold. We ended the lease on our flat, and then we went traveling last year for the most of the year. And then towards the end of last year, so at the start of December, we come back to the UK and we'll be here till this September, and then we'll go back home. Australia is, when I say home, I mean Australia, because we're residents there now, so we live, that is home. So I am a emotional intelligence and mindset coach, and I primarily work with, well, I only work with women, but primarily women who are either approaching the best club in the world, which is the 30s club, or are already in the 30s club. And basically, I teach women how to master emotional regulation and master their mind and make their mind their strongest tool and biggest asset so they can go and grab life by its big old titties like I've been doing. So that's my thing. I love to do it, and how I kind of got to where I am in terms of being able to build that to a point where it's allowed me to travel and allowed me to, is I went through, obviously we'll get into it, but I went through such a huge journey myself. And then it was kind of like I started to wake up and see myself, see the world completely different in a completely new, incredible way. Started to respond differently to the world. And then I was like, holy shit. I was like, how is there so many women in the world that are feeling as much pain as I did, but don't know but don't know the solution, don't know this stuff? So then I was like, right, okay. The pull I had towards making that my mission was huge. So I built the business. It's been about, I'd say it's been about 4 years since the business started. But in my mind, I've only been a business owner probably for about two and a bit, three, because at the beginning, I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. Coaching always come very naturally to me. So very kind of like that was boxed off. But in terms of business and feeling like I was an entrepreneur, feeling like I was a business owner, I'd say about 3 years-ish. And yeah, it's just grew and grew, and the impact has got bigger. And like I always say, my number one why is always what I've just said, the fact that I want women to wake up and love themselves and love life every day. But I think when I first started, I didn't realize the potential, not necessarily, well, no, I didn't realize the potential I had with this business. I didn't realize the potential the business had. And now my second why is just building a life that is based off freedom and based off fun. And
Mhm.
that second why is obviously having the means to do that with the business. So yeah, I mean that's the journey. It definitely started from me going through my own journey and then building it from there. And then last year was like the biggest vision came true. And like I said, I left Australia last March. So nearly a year now, which is crazy to me. It's gone so fast the last year. And we went to Japan, South America, Europe. Yeah. And then we got home. We got back to the UK in December. So we're just settling here for a bit because my partner's sister gets married and we've not really had family time. I've not been home for an English winter in 8 years. So it was a bit of a shock
Wow.
to the system because it's cold as fuck. Like, I don't know if you
Yeah.
see guys who are listening. I'm just showing the snow right now. You
Oh,
see, I
yeah.
haven't seen snow in 8 years. That's it. I've not seen it. So it's nice to be home, but bloody hell.
Shocking.
Yes, my body is like, what is going on here? But
Yeah.
yeah, so a bit of time at home. But yeah, that's kind of the business story of how it all started.
I love it. So my story was very similar to where I kind of wanted, not that you can never end suffering, right? Like there's always going to
Mm.
be healing on the journey.
Hmm.
I don't believe, for me at least, that I'll ever be like healed
No,
completely from anything. I think it's always a journey that we're stepping through and we're constantly growing.
yeah,
But for me, I wanted to help impact people suffering in some way, somehow, shape, or form so they didn't have to feel any longer the way that they were feeling like I had felt. I didn't want
yes.
people to feel the way I felt for so long, which was
Mm,
in so much despair and pain and suffering. I wanted them to feel like they were thriving in life.
yeah.
Um, so I'm interested to know like a couple things. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. So if you see me looking down, I'm writing notes.
Yeah.
You said that you didn't realize the potential that the business had. Did you realize that it was going to feel this good?
Oh, I love that question. No, because no, so when I first started coaching and I got my first coaching client and I think back to it, it was the most exciting thing in the world. But then it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world. What was the most exciting thing in the world was witnessing a woman in front of me go through this journey. And it was like almost I was watching my journey again. And I guess that's pretty like it's a selfish why in a way, because there's a part of me that, yes, I want to help people, but I'm addicted to that feeling now. Because when I saw that first client go through that, I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. Um, so that was what was like that really, really felt good to me. I guess the answer to that question is no, though, because I didn't realize how amazing life can be when you own your own business. And I'm not saying it's easy because it's not everyone has it in them. And I can easily say that now because I've been doing it for a long time. Like it is very easy to go, nah, fuck this. It's too hard. It's too stressful. And don't get me wrong, there have been times where I want to burn it all to the ground, but I have gotten myself to a place now where that doesn't necessarily happen anymore. Yes, I go through periods where I have to hold big emotion with business, as every entrepreneur does. But no, I did not realize that if you would have told me 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that I would be traveling the world and getting paid, and not only traveling the world and getting paid, but traveling the world and getting paid to help people and do something that lights me up, I would have just been, I probably wouldn't have even laughed at you. I would have cried because I thought you would have been taking the piss out of me.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so no, I didn't realize it could be this good because I think when you set off on a journey, your mind will only you're only able to kind of envision for yourself what's in your level of perception. Whereas now, though, I've got into the habit of thinking so big because I've got the evidence that it can happen. But back then, no, I just wanted to help at least one person.
Yeah.
So It's mad, yeah. So no, the answer to the question is no, I didn't realize how good.
It, it's so cool. I feel that way too, where I didn't realize that it was going to feel as amazing as it does feel in my body every day, in my mind, and my
Mm,
spirit. And to me, and like the name of this podcast is the alignment blueprint, that's real alignment, is
yeah,
doing what makes you feel good every day. And maybe it's
every
not all
day.
day, every day. I mean, we have to do things we don't love. We have to clean the toilets, mop the floors, take the trash out. But if we can do more of the things that feel really good in our bodies, I think that is the key to living an aligned life.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think it's important to note as well, like in terms of business, there is still things in this business where I don't necessarily, I'm not like, oh my God, I love this, like taxes. Hey, like what on earth? Do you know what I mean? However, knowing that I can get up every day, and so for an instance, is the last week I've been really poorly. Like I've not been
Okay.
very well. There's been a flu going around the UK. It's quite bad. But I worked from my bed and I was just like, I remember just being sat there going, this is madness to me. Like I'm getting paid, I'm helping people from my bed whilst I'm ill, or choosing my tasks, choosing like whether I want to do really like brain focused task, not today because I'm not feeling well. So I'm going to do something that's really easy and not having to like answer to someone. Because what I've realized since owning a business as well is that I've never really in previous jobs done very well with with answering to people.
I feel
Like,
that.
and sitting at a desk and having like, I remember I was in this call center job and I was ringing people over and over again saying the same thing 8 hours a day. And that to me is just mind numbing. And I always kind of
It
had
is.
this feeling I was never gonna do something normal like that, or normal in quotation marks. So yeah, it feels that part of business. And I think once you know what your values are, and mine's always been like adventure, freedom, that they're my values, like things like that. When you build a life around those values, that's when you live in alignment. And I love that. I love that I can live through my values every day through my business.
Yeah, I love that too. If you see me looking down and looking over, my daughter is here, and I told her to please stay in the bedroom and watch her iPad. I was gonna pause the podcast, but I was
No,
like it's
no, keep it
alignment. We're
going.
living. Um, she crawled over here and started talking to me, and I'm like, go away. And
Oh,
then she's
bless her.
crawling underneath the table. I don't know. Go find it.
Oh,
Go.
bless her.
She's
No,
like
don't
talking
pause
to
it.
me.
It makes it better.
Oh, that's so funny. I thought you were gonna think I'm crazy. I'm like looking
No, I
around.
thought, you know what? I thought it was a cat or a dog or
Bas
something.
basically is, but this is the life. This is the alignment in life. Um, so I also jotted down a question. So we established that neither of us really realized that it could be this good.
Yeah,
Were you scared at first? Because like I had shared something on my Instagram today because I started going back to the gym today for the first time in months since I came back to Florida.
love that.
And
Well done.
thank you. I was terrified. I was like out of breath. I was having anxiety about going in
Really? What do you think about it that was causing it? Just because it was new and that you hadn't been in ages?
because I hadn't been in so long and I knew that I was out of shape. And
Yeah, okay.
I was an athlete when I was younger. I was so used to
Mm,
being in shape. So that whole like
mm,
starting over again thing is scary. Like it
yeah.
is scary for so many people. And I had
Mm.
shared on my Instagram, just do the big scary thing. So like you did the big scary thing and babe, I'm so sorry.
Don't
Um,
apologize.
but you did the big scary thing and I'm wondering, were you scared and how did you do it in spite of that?
You know what it was? So just about a year before I started the business, I went on my own personal journey and I did so many big scary things. Not they might not have necessarily been big and scary to other people, but for me, they were big scary things, right?
Mhm.
So then when it comes to starting my business, yes, I was scared, but my why was so strong that even when it was scary, I was like, well, I'm doing it. And because I'd learned so much about emotional regulation in that year and the way the mind works and neuroscience, I knew that yes, I felt fear. Of course I did. It was something new. I was starting a business. Like I said, when I remember when I got my first couple of clients, I was like, okay, it's real now, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Or even before that, putting it out there that I was being a coach, you know. Um, but because I'd spent so much time starting to kind of really learn and master this skill of you're gonna feel fear no matter what new thing you do. Like it's like you say, you went to the gym and you felt that anxiety, you felt that fear. Your mind will tell you that this is dangerous because it's new, because your mind just wants to keep you safe. And you'll feel that in your body because your mind will tell your body this isn't safe, this is new, this is not normal. But that is a skewed perception of danger. We have a skewed perception of danger most of the time. And then, so I built up the skill of going, okay, I feel a bit scared, but we're still going to do it. But it's not dangerous. And when we get to the other side, that's the best fucking feeling in the world. When you do something that you were
It's the
first
best.
scared of, then you get through the other side and you're like, shit, like, whoo, I did that. Right, it's the best feeling in the world because that's where growth lies, isn't it? So, yes, I was scared, but I also had the skills to move through that fear, and I understood what fear was at that point. So,
Yeah, I love
mm,
that. That was the same for me, is that I kind of trained myself to just continually do, and
mm,
it wasn't big scary things probably for other people, but for me it was.
yeah,
I was debilitated by so much anxiety and depression that doing normal daily tasks were scary for me.
yeah, yeah,
So I just kind of trained myself to do the big scary thing. And my why also pushed me forward. And it was to live a life that I loved. Like I wanted to live a life that I
yeah.
loved and not be in fear anymore. So you were talking about your why. I'm wondering, do you work with clients on their why?
Yes. First thing I do. So the first two things I do with any client is map their nervous system and get clear on their why. First two things, because mapping your nervous system is gonna allow you to see what each state looks like for you personally in terms of like when you're anxious, when you're angry, when you're calm, when you're numb. It's going to allow you to see that looks like for each of you, and that's what we need to do moving forward if you're working with me. And then the why, because when you're moving forward working with me, it's not always going to be easy. You are going to get uncomfortable, you are going to do things that you never thought you'd be able to do before, and sometimes your mind is going to tell you that you can't do it. But when you have that why, the reason why it's the first, one of the first things I do is because I get really, really careful because it's really, really easy if you're not used to doing this work. If you ask someone what's their why and they go, I want to be happy. I'm like, hon, that's not a strong enough why. What
Yeah.
does that look like for you? Is it that you come home and you can speak to your partner and connect with them and you're laughing at the table rather than coming home, scrolling on your phone, going to bed, arguing? Like it needs to be because then when it comes to when things get hard, you've got this clear vision, this clear why of the reasoning behind the action you're taking. So yes, every client, first two things I do.
I love that. And that is something I did. So, do you get into like the specifics of your happy, which is kind of what it
Yes.
seems like you just said,
Yeah.
that like the feelings that you feel in that happy, the way
Hmm.
it looks, all that. Is that something that you do with clients?
Yeah, literally the way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it smells, everything. Because if you can lock in on that, then you're not going to take no for an answer. You are not going to give up.
Yeah, I do that with myself often and with clients
Yeah.
when we start and then
Mm,
periodically throughout our journey. But that's how my alignment journey really started. I wrote down what I wanted my day to look like, and then
mm,
like literally every action that I'm gonna do throughout the day. And this was before I had my business full time. And then I next to it wrote how I wanted to feel in my body. So
yeah.
like I'm laughing, I'm smiling,
Mm,
uh I'm around who I'm around. Like I got
yeah.
really specific on it. I feel loved.
Mm,
And that kind of grounded me, but let me dream too. It grounded me to that aligned day, and it let me dream what I could potentially have, because I genuinely
yeah.
believe that our dreams are like gifts to us specifically.
Yeah,
like the way we
100%.
want to
Your
live our lives.
ideas, your desires, your dreams, you wouldn't have them if they weren't meant for you. You wouldn't have that desire if it weren't meant for you. So if you have a desire, but you're like, oh no, I could never do that, or oh no, X, Y, Z, like you have that desire for a reason. It's landed in your space, in your energy for a reason. But in terms of why as well, I think one of the strongest things you can do is ask like what impact you want to have. Even if you're not doing something like us, you haven't got clients, you're still you still make an impact
Absolutely.
somehow to someone, to people you love. So I think when you bring your why back to your impact as well, that's really strong because then so for some people that's even sometimes stronger. But I do always say make sure part of your why is for you. You're doing it for you, no one else, kind of thing. But then anything on top of that is a bonus, is additional. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So hold on, I had a thought and then I lost the thought, but it's going to come back in a second. Um, oh, I know what I was going to say. So I always ask if all the versions of you were sitting at a table together, what would they say to each other? But the first thing I want to ask is
Okay.
if you were sitting at the table with you 4 years ago when you decided to take a jump and start this business,
Mm.
what would you say to that woman?
I would say, first, I'd say, has she already decided that she's doing it, or is she about to decide?
She didn't decide yet.
She didn't
She's about
decide
to
yet.
decide.
Okay. So I would be like, hon, you will not believe the shit that we've accomplished in 4 years. Do it. You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing in terms of the calm that you need to create. You know that you can hold the emotion, everything. And you know what else I'd say? Actually, I'd say trust where you're at, take things slow, and remove any other coach off social media that you don't truly connect with. Because I think very, very early on in my journey, I was looking at what everybody else was doing. And it was just
Mhm.
so there's so much noise in the industry. You'll know that you'll understand this. And that noise when you're a little baby coach can be very, very
Loud.
like leading and loud, yeah. And I think I got caught up in that for a long time. Well, not a long time. The first couple of years, I'd say the first year and a half, 2 years. And but if you're looking at everybody else's lane, you're neglecting your own lane, right? You're not acting from alignment because you're doing what you think you should be doing within the industry. But as soon as you turn the volume up on who you are, that's what I'd say. I'd say on this journey, turn the volume up on who you are and stick with that, and you won't go wrong. Literally.
Exactly. And then you'll make it your own
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of
Because there is
trying to make
loads of
it.
coaches out there. Of course there are, but people, how many people have emotional intelligence skills? How many people have the knowledge about the mind? A lot of people. But people choose to work with you because you're you. So the more you turn up the volume on you, the more people are going to want to work with you. And the more aligned clients you'll get as well.
Exactly. Um, so now go back to the unhealed self,
Okay. Like
like
before,
before you
before.
did all the work.
Okay. What would I say to her? I would say that does she know about this work yet? I always like to ask questions. Does she know about the work or is she completely oblivious to that she's about to go on this journey?
She's completely oblivious that she's about to go on this amazing journey.
Okay, I'd say that everything that you've been through is not your fault. I know you feel like, oh my goodness, oh, just sort of got shivers, feel a bit emotional. I'd be like, everything that you've been through is not your fault. You can absolutely let go of the shame that you're holding, and shit's gonna get better. Shit's gonna blow up for you. Um, and you're okay. You're loved. You're accepted, and you don't have to try and be anyone other than you. That's what I
Yeah,
say to
I love that. And then lastly, go to like, if you can remember
okay.
your 6-year-old self.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I can remember. I would say
I'm
I
looking at my
don't I
daughter
wouldn't
again.
say
Sorry.
too much. No, it's okay. I wouldn't say too much. All I would do is hold her. I'd say I'd,
Yeah.
I'd say I've got you. You're safe. I would say again, I'd say it's you can't do anything. That this would happen whether you're here or not. I'd say like they do love you. They just haven't got a very fucking good way of showing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just with 6-year-old me, I would give her what she needed and didn't get, which is a sense of safety.
Yeah. And I think when before you said that, I don't know if it was me picking up on what you were going to say or just
Mhm.
me pro maybe projecting my own what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
But like, just give me a hug. Like, that's all I
Yeah.
felt was like a hug
Mm.
for my
Yeah.
6-year-old
Literally.
self.
Mm.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing that because I know that's more deep and more personal. And I really
Yeah, I
appreciate
don't
you
mind
sharing
shit.
that with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. 100%. I like with the thing is when I come on these things, like I my thing is storytelling and I love to share because then I know that from that, that's how people are like, oh, well, I've been through something similar and I can also go and make a life that I love, even if it might not look like traveling or owning a business,
Yeah.
no matter what you've experienced, whether it's childhood trauma or it's not necessarily trauma, but you've had some shit go on.
Yeah.
Like you can make anything happen. You can do anything you want to do. You can be the powerful woman. It's just you have to kind of stop running from the pain and turn to face it.
Hmm. And I think that, and I was kind of going to lead into a question about posting online.
Mm,
When we share our stories, it gives people a chance to actually like connect with us,
mm,
like truly connect with who we are at our core and
yeah.
really develop a relationship with us. So what I'm wondering is that when you post on, say, Instagram,
Mm.
are you sharing personal stories? And is that sometimes scary? Or are you kind of like over that scary hump?
On my Instagram, I am just, it's like I'm speaking to my best friend.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I honestly don't get scared at all like with showing up on social media. When I first started, I did. And I guess I would share a little bit here and there. I don't share everything because I think there's a place for certain things. Like it's not at the end of the day, it's not my diary, it's my business. However, I absolutely am very, very open about my past on my social media. So, oh,
I can still hear you.
okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very, very open about my past on on social media because I get like you say, it's gonna show other women what they're capable of, what's possible for them. So yes, I share my story. You know what it is? I have been through such a journey with removing any shame I had over things
Hmm.
that did involve me, over things that I experienced that didn't, but I witnessed. Like I held so much shame for so long because of my past. Like I grew up with um domestic violence, addiction, alcoholism, all like within the family. And even though that wasn't my doing, I still held a lot of shame over it. And then teenage years, because of what happened, a lot of my behaviors was very disruptive, held a lot of shame over that. And then well, not just before the business, but when I went on that journey myself before the business, I went on this huge thing of just letting go of so much shame. And don't get me wrong, when I first started, I didn't share all of that. And it's not as if I talk about it every day, but I absolutely share when I feel the pull to, when I feel like it's what's needed in that moment. I don't feel fear around that anymore just because I don't hold shame at all. I get again, my why drives me to do that. And don't get me wrong, I've had difficult conversations with family members, with people like that because like some of my family don't like the fact that I share. But again, because of the skills that I've learned with emotional intelligence and communication, I'm able to communicate in a way where they semi-understand or where at least I'm setting a boundary and still share from a place of look, like I'm not talking from your experience. I'm talking from my experience kind of thing and what I
Exactly.
felt. Yeah. So yes, I share personal. No, I don't get scared anymore.
Yeah. And I think it's like, and that's what I shared this morning on my Instagram. It's like working a muscle, like going to the gym. The more
Mm,
you work the muscle, the stronger it gets, and it's less scary to do
100%.
it. And I think I'm
Yeah.
just talking about this because so much because it's so pertinent to me right now because I did that scary thing this morning.
Yeah,
But
and that's it. No, it is that though. And it's the same with anything. It's like the more, say, if you're thinking a certain way about something at the moment, whatever it might be that you think you're a piece of shit, okay? But you have a little bit of evidence or you have a little bit of a sliver of, oh, maybe I'm not a piece of shit. Maybe like I'm actually a really kind person and this and this. You're not going to think that way straight away and think and believe that straight away. But if every day you do something to gather evidence that backs up the new thing that you want to believe, you're building that muscle every time you
yeah,
choose to respond differently to something, even if it's just the tiniest little thing. You don't retaliate when someone gets angry at you, instead you walk away. That's building that muscle. It's taking You're literally building new pathways in the brain. I was actually talking about this yesterday. You're building when you're choosing to think or respond in a different way than to what is usual, your brain is building a new pathway. So it is literally like you're taking your brain to the gym. It's built, and that pathway gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And then the muscles, if we're talking about the gym, aka the other pathways, which are the old way of thinking, they get weaker and weaker and weaker. And because they're unused, the brain then breaks them down and they disappear. So
yeah,
you got to think of it like you are literally building a muscle in your brain, because that is what
yeah,
it is.
yeah. I love that so much. Um, so if you were, so that 30 some woman is listening right now,
Mhm.
and it's like, this sounds really good, but you need to, there's something that they need to hear to like take the leap and jump in and do the work. What is the thing you're going to say to them? And I'm sure it's individual to each person,
Yeah.
obviously, but like, what's kind of one general message you would tell someone who is, or maybe a message that you had told to a potential client that turned into a client,
Mm.
um, to kind of give them the permission to allow themselves to do the work with you and on themselves.
You know what? You know the kind of the way I go into this and go into this work is that the thing I'd say is I cannot say anything that's going to force you to do this work.
Mhm.
There's not one thing that I can do or I can say that is going to convince you to do this work. But I what I will say is if you feel the pull to change your life, if you feel the pull to be a version of you that you can wake up every day to and be proud of and be fulfilled and feel fulfilled and all of them things. Like if you feel that pull, then you feel that pull for a reason.
Mhm.
And you get to go with that. You get to flow with that. And I guess yeah, there's not one thing that you can say to someone that's gonna no one else is gonna come and make you do it.
Yeah.
But I'd also this is one of the huge things that I've learned on my coaching journey. Because I think when I first started, my energy was very much trying to convince people to change in my
Mhm.
messaging, in the way I shown up. Like it was very much like, if you do this, or if you invest in yourself, or if you look how amazing things can be. Now I'm at a point where if someone wants to change, they'll come to me. You know what I mean? It's not my job to convince people to change. It's my job to elevate the people who are ready to change, you know?
Yeah.
But if you are on the fence, all I'd say is like, feel that pull, like go with that pull, trust your intuition, trust your gut, because no matter what the outcome is, you've done something that's aligned with you, you've done something that feels aligned with your intuition. So what can possibly go wrong? Well, what can possibly go wrong? A lot of things. But
What
you
could go
followed
right?
your heart. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I love that. I like that so much because I was also the same where I thought I was very trying to do like at the
Convincing.
beginning, the convincing
Yeah,
because I was following other people's lead instead of my own and making the journey my own. So I was
yeah,
doing like the scarcity, like, oh, I have 3 spots left or
yeah.
that kind of thing. And
You
that
haven't,
feels,
you've got like 10.
I know. Exactly. That feels so inauthentic now. And it did then too,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize it because I just thought I was supposed to do that because that's what I was being taught to do.
Yeah.
And really
Like, don't get me wrong,
finding,
I do still say now, like, oh, I've got 3 spots, guys, but it's that you know that it's, and people sense that. People know
oh
when
my
you're
God,
chatting,
yes.
people know when you're chatting shit and when you're genuinely like, guys, there's 3 spots left. If you want, like, if you're interested, let's do it. Unless you're like, I've got 3 spots left, guys. They're gonna go. You need, and but really, you've got all the space in the world, and you're just
Yes.
trying to create that urgency.
And it's totally okay if you want, if you post like that, even if
Yeah,
you have 10 spots left and you said there's only three, it's just a matter of what feels authentic to you. And it felt
yeah,
so icky to me to do something like
mm,
that. And
yeah,
I just like that you're basically saying it's your potential client or your client's journey, and they have to make it their own, basically. Like
yeah.
you're going to guide them, but they have to want to do the
Mm.
work. They have to want to make the change. They have to want to take the steps. And I think that's so empowering.
Because I think if I don't know about you, but when I first started, because I was in this convincing energy and convincing mode, I think a lot of people make the decision, but then they think that decision is the answer and is going to be where everything changes. And it's not. You make the decision and then the hard work starts, and then
Exactly.
the journey starts. Do you know what I mean? The decision is amazing, and the decision is like the domino effect of the rest of your life. It's chapter one of your story, right? Or chapter one of, I like to say, your chapter one of your pain to power story. Like when you make the decision to invest, like I say to clients, when you click that button and you've been like you've paid your deposit or whatever, it's like, oh my God, right, okay, chapter one, I decided, I've made
Mm.
this choice now. This is the first step to like how my life gets to look. But it's not the only step. Like then you have to, actually be a part of your own journey kind of thing and make the decisions yourself. And I think when you are in convincing mode, sometimes you can bring people into your space who think that you're the answer to
Hmm.
make it all happen. And I know a lot, but I'm not here to fix people, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And no one can fix, and I've learned this in my personal life more than
Mm,
anything. I can't fix anyone else, no matter how
mm,
much I want to fix other people in my personal life. I
yeah.
can't fix anyone. They have to do the work
Yeah,
themselves.
themselves. And you
It
can't
doesn't,
force them to. It's very,
you,
very easy when it comes to family and stuff, when you're like, look at how life can feel. Look at like I know you'd be so much more happy if XYZ. And but you can't make anyone. And I think that's a huge lesson in building a business, in going on this journey of like healing and personal development. Like you can't force anyone else to do it. And sometimes it's sad because you're like, well, you
you see their
outgrow people.
potential. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then you
yeah.
outgrow.
But it's one
Absolutely.
of them things, isn't it?
Yeah. It is sad, but also at the same time, it's like it for me at least, when I kind of released those people, places, and things that weren't
Mm.
growing with me, it felt freeing
Oh my
because
God. And
I
then
could
doors
grow.
open to like people and places and things that are next level. So it's sad, but it's
Exactly.
part of that process of growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So I have a question that I ask mostly everybody, unless I forget because I get mom brain 7 years later after I've had my daughter and I forget it sometimes. I didn't forget it today, but I'm wondering what is your definition of success or the sweet spot? Because I've had people be like, well, I don't really um resonate with the definition of success. I resonate more with the definition of sweet spot. And I really
Okay.
like that kind of take on it, like the
Mm.
sweet spot in life instead of success, because I guess maybe success is a little restricting. But I like to give you both the terminologies because
Yeah.
you might resonate with one, not the other. Maybe you resonate with both, but I'm
I
wondering
do.
what yours is.
I resonate with both. And I think for me, success is so subjective. And I think it's so important that um when you're on a business journey, when you're growing a business, to get clear on what your individual vision of success is. Because success to one person could be traveling the world.
Hmm.
That could be success, but success to someone else could be just being able to be really present with their family and you know all of that stuff. So I guess success to me is freedom, definitely. Getting to a place where you have the freedom to spend time with your family, to do what you want, to kind of not answer to anyone, and to lie in bed and when you're ill and work
Mm,
from your bed and still earn money. That's success to me. The sweet spot. See, I look at success when you've said sweet, I've never looked at it like that, but when you said it, it was like two separate things rather than one thing. So
mhm.
I'd say success is that, like a business or a life, not even just a business, a life that is filled with freedom is my version of success. So being
Yeah.
there for like my future family. I'm not a mum yet, but like that's the next big vision for me. So we got traveling, we did traveling, and then the next big one is buying a house in Australia, getting a Rottweiler, and having a baby. Right there.
Love it.
Yeah. So, but the sweet spot for me, when you say sweet spot is like it, I don't know why, but the word flow come into mind. Like still pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and growing, but being really like present and noticing the small moments and noticing things like flow into your life and notice that everything that you're receiving, you know what I mean? Like still
Yeah.
sweet spot for me is the sweet spot between masculine and feminine being and doing. That's what kind of come to mind when you said sweet spot because you've got that bad bitch like yes I'm gonna smash it, but then you've also got the like everything's flowing into my life
The
kind of vibe.
flow.
That's the
Yeah.
sweet spot for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, so tell me, for those that are listening, how a couple things, how they can find you
hmm
on social media, on your website, all that. And then I'll also drop it in the show notes too.
Yeah.
And then if they're listening and like, what would be their next step to take if they're like, heck yeah, I really want to do this work.
Okay, so you can find me at Instagram's probably your best bet. I do Instagram and TikTok, but TikTok I have a love-hate relationship with, and
Me
also
too.
yeah, and also it's just if you're wanting to learn from me, Instagram's the place to be. That's at thegrowglow.co. And the first step you want to be doing if you want to start this work is number one, awareness. You want to be super aware of like what's not working in life, of who you are right now, like what are your values right now? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What brings you the most joy? Because then if you can't create change and live in alignment with who you are if you don't even know who that is. So the first step would be awareness, aware of who you are, aware of like what really isn't working for you, like what patterns are showing up in terms of like where you're triggered, what where are you unhappy in life, and and then just really gaining the knowledge about your emotional regulation. It underpins everything. If
Mhm.
you're going to build a business, if you're going to do this work, like it is key. So I would say get stuck into that and join my membership. There's your first step. Join the
Yeah.
membership. But yeah, emotional regulation and awareness, I would say the first two things. And your why. Get clear on your why.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. So I love chatting with you. This was super fun.
Me too. Me too.
You have a light about you that like just makes me smile.
Oh, thank
So
you.
thank you for making me smile this morning
Oh, you are so welcome. I
in
love
your
that. What a
afternoon.
compliment. That's one of the best compliments there is, I reckon. You are a
Yeah.
light.
Yeah. 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 Um, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. I guess all I want to say is like if you are on this journey of business, if you are on this journey of creating a life that's aligned, like think big because like I said, I've just spent the last year traveling the fucking world and whilst getting paid and I'm like I'll never stop shouting it from the rooftops because the me 5 years ago who was crippled with an anxiety disorder in the bathroom, hiding from my partner because I was too full of shame to tell him what was going on.
Hmm.
She wouldn't have guessed that we'd be here right now, but and I wouldn't take away a single thing that happened because it's led me here. Without that anxiety disorder, I wouldn't be sat talking to you right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess just if you are, especially if you're going through it, if you're experiencing like one of the lowest times, just know that it's not going to always be that way, and you can absolutely choose different for yourself. Everything changed the moment. I remember where I was, I remember who I was with, and I was just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. I am not doing this anymore. And then from that moment, I'm not saying it's been uphill because it's absolutely not been, but from that
Non-linear.
yeah, from that moment where I made the decision, life changed, and you can do that too, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I love that so much. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You are so welcome.
I
Thank you.
so appreciate it. And thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. We will check you out next time.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. I hope you enjoyed and got at least one takeaway. Liking what you hear? Subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you listen from. And don't forget to join me over on Instagram at CallieTony_. That's at CALLITONY_. Talk soon.